The frozen hunt begins. The wind howled across the endless white land, carrying with it the sharp bite of ice and silence. The Arctic was no ordinary battlefield. It was alive, breathing, waiting to test every creature that dared to enter. Beneath, the rolling waves of snow, the ground trembled with secrets, as if the storm itself was watching. This was the chosen arena, the place of the great hunt. From the shadows of the frozen cliffs, the hunters arrived. They came not from Earth, but from worlds scattered across galaxies, beings of power, size, and terror. Their ships cut through the storm clouds and landed like predators marking their territory. One by one, they stepped into the icy wind. The first was a reptilian beast, tall and armored with scales harder than steel, eyes glowing like amber fire. His breath hissed, releasing steam as hot as lava into the freezing air. The second was an insectoid tracker, its limbs thin and sharp like knives, clicking against the snow with an eerie rhythm. Its many eyes scanned every shadow, searching for prey. Behind them came shadow-skinned predators cloaked in strange armor, their faces hidden beneath glowing masks, each carrying weapons forged in alien suns. The air grew heavy with tension. The hunters did not come here to fight one another. They came to test themselves against the storm, against the prey, against death itself. For every cycle, only one survived. And that survivor was remembered in legend across stars. But this time, there was something different. Amid the towering monsters stood one fragile figure. Small, soft-skinned, and vulnerable compared to the others. A human. He wore nothing but thick winter gear, his face hidden under frost and fur. His boots crunched in the snow, leaving ordinary footprints that looked weak beside the heavy claws and armored steps of the others. The hunters laughed. Their voices were sharp, cruel, echoing across the frozen canyon. "A human," the reptilian hissed, curling its lips into a grin. "This is not a challenge," another growled. "He will be the first to die." The human did not respond. He only stood still, his head lowered, his breath fogging the air. Behind his goggles, no one could see his eyes, but there was no fear in his stance. He looked small, yes, weak, yes. But there was something about the way he held himself, silent, patient, that unsettled even the fiercest predators. High above them, a flare exploded into the sky. A blazing red light burned through the storm, signaling the beginning of the hunt. The snow roared, the wind screamed, and in that instant, the Arctic came alive. The hunters charged into the storm, their figures swallowed by white walls of snow. The reptilian leapt forward, claws digging into the ice. The insectoid skittered sideways, vanishing into the fog. The shadow-skinned warriors spread apart, hunting in silence. Each believed themselves stronger, smarter, faster, and each was eager to be the one who survived. But the human did not rush. He stepped slowly, each movement careful, as though the blizzard was an ally instead of an enemy. Within seconds, his figure disappeared into the storm, swallowed by the same white silence that consumed the rest. Hours passed. The hunt was brutal. The storm shredded vision, snow blinded eyes, and the cold pierced through even the strongest armor. Yet one by one, roars and screams echoed in the distance. Hunters fell. Some were dragged into hidden crevices beneath the ice. Others vanished in flashes of light, their weapons useless against the storm. Blood, red, green, black, spilled across the snow and was buried almost instantly by the blizzard, and yet something strange began to happen. Whenever a hunter was found dead, there were tracks nearby. Human tracks. Small, fragile footprints pressed into the snow, circling, stalking, always watching. Whispers began to spread among the survivors. The human is still alive. The storm protects him. No, he is the storm. But none could explain it. How could the weakest of them all survive when the strongest had already fallen? How could someone with no claws, no armor, no alien weapons move unseen, strike unseen, and vanish like a ghost into the blizzard? The hunters began to feel something they had never felt before in all the centuries of this tradition. Fear. The storm howled louder, carrying with it the sound of footsteps. Or was it only imagination? The snow twisted into shapes, sometimes forming the outline of a man, sometimes vanishing as though mocking the hunters who still searched desperately. The reptilian growled to himself as he pressed forward. He was determined to crush the human with his own claws, to prove once and for all that strength ruled above all. Yet as he walked deeper into the storm, he noticed something terrifying. His own tracks were not alone. Beside them, perfectly placed in the snow, were the small footprints of a human. He spun around. Nothing, only snow, only silence, only the storm. For the first time, the great reptilian felt his chest tighten, not from the cold, but from fear. Far in the distance, through the white mist, a figure stood, just for a moment. A lone human, still, silent, watching. Then, just as quickly, he vanished. The reptilian roared into the storm, but the sound was swallowed instantly, lost in the endless howl of the blizzard. The hunt had begun. And in the Arctic, death walked on human feet, death in the snow. The storm raged without end. It was not just wind and ice anymore. It was a living wall that crushed everything inside. Vision shrank to only a few steps ahead, and every shadow looked like death waiting to strike. The hunters, once proud and fearless, now moved with hesitation. The insectoid tracker was the first to realize something was wrong. It had 6 eyes spread across its skull, each glowing faintly as they pierced through the snow. Its senses were sharper than any other creature in the hunt. Yet even with its keen sight, the storm made everything unclear. Shapes moved, but they melted away like ghosts. The wind carried footsteps, whispers, and echoes, but they all vanished before reaching the source. Clicking its jaws nervously, the insectoid dropped low to the snow. Its antennae twitched, tasting the vibrations in the air. And then it felt. It's something moving, fast, circling. Not a beast, not one of the other hunters. Something small. Something human. It let out a screech to warn the others, but before the sound was complete, something snapped. The ground beneath the insectoid gave way. Hidden beneath the snow was a deep crack in the ice, perfectly covered, perfectly placed. The creature's long limbs flailed, cutting the air, but gravity pulled it down into the darkness. Its scream echoed only once. Then silence. When the storm covered the crack again, all that was left was a faint trail of human footprints leading. Away, the other hunters gathered quickly. They stood in a circle, weapons raised, eyes scanning. The reptilian snarled, his body steaming in the cold, fury flashing in his amber eyes. "It is the human," he hissed. "He dares to hunt us." A shadow-skinned warrior lifted its mask, slightly, revealing eyes burning with suspicion. "Impossible. Humans are weak. They are prey, not predators." But the evidence was clear. 2 had already fallen, and the only sign left behind was the same. Small footprints, light steps in the snow. The hunters growled and hissed, each blaming the storm, each refusing to admit fear. Yet deep inside, something was changing. The tradition of the Arctic hunt had always been a test of strength. Never before had the storm itself turned against them. Never before had prey dared to fight back. As the blizzard grew harsher, the hunters split apart, determined to find the human. Hours passed. One of the shadow-skinned warriors trudged through the snow, his armor glowing faintly against the darkness. His mask scanned the horizon, searching for heat, searching for life. Nothing. Only ice. Only wind. His breath was heavy now, fogging the glass of his visor. Then he saw it. A shape. Not far ahead, a figure moved slowly across the ice. Small, fragile. A human. The warrior raised his weapon and began to follow, his heart pounding with victory already in his mind. Step by step he closed the distance, his heavy boots crunching against the snow. The figure never turned back, never ran, just walked steady into the storm, closer, closer, and then gone. The figure melted into the snow, vanishing like smoke. The warrior froze, scanning every direction. His visor blinked with alarms, confused. The storm screamed louder, and in that scream, he heard something else, something he had never expected. A whisper. It was in his own language, quiet, soft, carried by the wind. "Behind you!" The warrior spun around. Nothing. But when he turned back, the human stood only a few steps away. No weapon, no armor. Just standing, still and silent. The warrior roared and swung his blade, but the ground betrayed him. The ice shattered beneath his own step, revealing jagged spikes hidden beneath the snow. His body fell hard, pierced through by the frozen spears. His scream was cut short as the storm buried him in white silence. When the others arrived, they found only his broken weapon half buried in the snow. And again, the same small footprints leading away. Now there were fewer. The reptilian slammed his claw into the ice, cracking it. "No more games!" he roared. His voice carried into the storm, but no one answered. The truth was spreading, even if none dared to speak it. The human was no longer prey. He was the ghost of the hunt, a predator with no face, no sound, and no weakness. That night, the hunters tried to rest in the frozen wasteland. They lit fires that flickered weakly against the storm, hoping for warmth, hoping for safety. But safety was a lie in the Arctic. One by one, the fires went out. Not from the wind, from hands, invisible hands. The insectoid was gone. The shadow-skinned warrior was gone. And still the human lived. The hunters huddled together, their bodies pressed close, their weapons ready. The reptilian whispered low, his voice trembling though he tried to hide it. "He is not human anymore. The storm has taken him." No one laughed now. No one mocked the fragile footprints in the snow. For in the Arctic hunt, death was expected. But fear? Fear was something new, and it wore the shape of a man. The human tricked by morning, the storm softened but did not stop. The wind still pushed hard, and the sky stayed white like a blank wall. The hunters were fewer now. Their shapes moved like dark dots on an endless sheet of ice. No one spoke unless needed. When they did speak, they kept their voices low, as if the storm could hear plans and swallow them. The reptilian leader stood on a ridge of ice and stared into the mist. Steam rose from his armor with each breath. His claws tapped the frozen ground in a slow rhythm. He was angry, but he was also careful now. The human had forced him to be careful. He turned to the others and spoke in a deep voice. "Spread out, but not alone. Pairs. We move slow. We set traps. We make him reveal himself." They did as told. They placed heat beacons in the snow. They set sensor mines in shallow curves. They dropped small cameras tied to thin wire, so even in the white world, a twitch would tell a truth. They believed this would end the human's game. They were wrong. The first mistake came fast. A shadow-skinned warrior spotted a warm shape on his visor, a body crouched behind a low ice wall. He gave a silent sign to his partner. The two moved as one, slow and sure. When they reached the wall, they counted down with fingers. 3, 2, 1. They leapt and aimed. No one was there. Only a metal can the size of a human hand sat in a hollow. A weak chemical pack warmed it. A strip of fur covered it so a camera would think it was skin. A thin string led away across the surface, and out into the fog. They turned to follow the string. The ice under them groaned. It was dark ice, thin ice over black water. The string did not lead to the human. It led to a heavy spike hammered into the far shore, a perfect line to make them walk where they should not. The first warrior fell. His partner lunged to pull him back, but the hole tore bigger. Both vanished. The water closed. The wind blew snow across the surface until the place looked untouched, as if no one had ever been there. Far away, the human watched from a hollow in the drift. He did not smile. His face was still and tired. His eyes moved, slow and patient, measuring the storm and the men inside it. He pulled the string free and coiled it again, neat and quiet, like a fisherman who did not waste a single knot. By midday, more signs appeared. The hunters found footprints that led toward a ridge and stopped. In the side of the ridge was a small hole. One shadow-skinned warrior slid a camera on a wire inside the tunnel. The tunnel turned left, then right, then left. Again, a maze in the snow. The warrior hissed and dragged the camera back. They did not notice the other hole, higher, behind them, where the human had cut the snow thin like glass. When the two stepped closer to talk, the sheet cracked and dropped a slice of roof on their heads. It did not kill them. It only blinded them for a breath. It was enough. By the time they cleared their eyes, the footprints behind them were fresh again. Their own footsteps were gone, brushed away with a pine branch tied to a rope. The human was moving in circles, making them chase ghosts, while he threaded the storm like a needle through cloth. They began to hear music. Not real music, just notes of wind blown across many small holes cut in the ice. Each hole gave a different sound. Together they made a thin, high song. It moved as the wind moved. The hunters shot at the sounds. Their shots cracked ice and broke snow bridges they needed to cross. The human never fired once. The storm did the striking. Near sunset, the reptilian leader finally found a trail that felt true. It was simple, direct, like a man getting tired, and careless. The prince went straight across a flat field of white. They followed fast, hungry for an end. Then the reptilian stopped. He held up a clawed hand. "Look," he said, "the prints were wrong. The toes were backward. The human had worn his boots backward to fool their eyes. They had been walking the wrong way across the field. They were following the end of a path, not the beginning." A shadow-skinned hunter cursed. "He mocks us." The reptilian did not answer. He took a long breath and tasted the air the way his kind did. There was smoke in it, human smoke, dry, small, smart. He turned his head, and there it was, a little campfire near a low block of snow. A human shape sat by the flame, hunched and still. The two hunters crept wide to flank. This time they would not rush. The reptilian advanced straight in, slow, careful. He saw the human's back, narrow shoulders under a white parka, hand held up to the fire. He raised his spear gun, forearm steady. "Stand," he said. The figure did not move. He fired. The spear cut through cloth and straw. The human burst into a scatter of shredded fabric and smoke. The campfire fell over and rolled toward a line of thin cord buried in the snow. The flame licked the cord. The cord flashed. Magnesium. The snow wall in front of them exploded in white light. Not heat, not shrapnel, just blinding brightness. For 3 heartbeats, every visor turned to black glass. They saw nothing. By the time their vision returned, the snow around their feet had been cut like lace. The ground dropped in a dozen places. Only their weight kept the bridges from falling. One of the shadow-skinned hunters took a step to steady himself. He did not stop falling. He disappeared in a flutter of snow, and the gap closed over him like a mouth. The reptilian threw his weight backward and froze where he stood. He did not move again for many breaths. On the far side of the trap, a figure rose slowly from a white ditch, the human. He did not raise a weapon. He only looked at them. He was close enough to see. The goggles were rimed with frost. The skin under the scarf was raw from wind. The eyes were calm, tired, alive. He lifted one hand and pointed behind them. They turned. On the back of a broken ice block, words were carved in many languages, shaky, deep, and clear. Stop the hunt. Go home. The reptilian snarled low. We are bound by tradition. The human's voice came soft, but it carried. Tradition kills you. Then he stepped sideways and was gone again, swallowed by a fold in the snow where a tunnel mouth hid like a shadow. Anger burned in the hunters. Now, pride too. They chased, but the maze fought them. The human had mapped the wind and the ice like they were roads. He had cut small doors between drifts. He had tied lines across gaps only he knew. He had built a whistle organ for the storm. He had turned an empty white world into a machine that spoke in his hand. Night returned like a heavy blanket. The aurora woke in the sky, green and thin, a ghost river above the storm. Under that light, the reptilian found a new sign, not a footprint, not a trap, a gift. A pack lay on a clean slab of ice, alien metal, opened neatly. Inside were power, cells, dry rations, a small tool, and a broken knife. A strip of cloth tied to the handle held a message burned into it. Take what you need and leave. The reptilian stared at the pack for a long time. He could not read the human's face, but he could read this. The human did not kill for joy. He did not kill if he did not have to. He gave them a path. He gave them a choice. The shadow-skinned hunter at his side shook his head. We do not. Run! Then we die, the reptilian said. His voice was flat, honest. He lifted the pack and closed it. But we will not die blind. High on the ridge, a thin figure watched them. The human stood with one arm wrapped around a rope anchored in the ice. Below him, the sea roared under a thin bridge, black as night. He tested the line, leaned into the dark, and slid across the gap like a whisper. When his boots touched the far side, he cut the rope and let it fall. The wind carried his voice back across the empty space, quiet and cold, in the reptilian's own tongue. You are loud, he said. The ice is not. Then the blizzard lifted again, like a curtain, and the human vanished into it, leaving only the sound of the storm, the slow crack of pressure ice, and the echo of a choice no hunter wanted to make. The Arctic had a new law, now. It did not belong to the strongest. It belonged to the one who listened. The blizzard's secret. The night never truly ended in the Arctic. Darkness and light mixed together, painted by the aurora and the storm. The hunters moved slower now, not from weakness, but from doubt. Their armor was cracked, their energy cells drained, their hearts heavy with the weight of invisible eyes. The reptilian leader walked at the front, his scales glowing faintly as the heat inside him fought the cold. He had survived many hunts, on planets where fire rained from the sky and jungles swallowed soldiers whole. Yet this place, the white emptiness, felt different. It was not only a test of strength, it was a test of mind. Behind him, the shadow-skinned warrior whispered through his mask. He sees us, but we never see him. How is this possible? The reptilian hissed softly, but he had no answer. He looked at the snow and saw small signs, tiny disturbances, lines in the ice, the faint brush of something being dragged. All were too perfect to be chance. Every step they took, the human had already walked. Every mistake they made, he had already planned. The storm grew louder. Snow swirled in spirals, carrying strange sounds, whispers, voices. At first, the hunters thought it was only the wind, but then the voices spoke in their own languages, clear, sharp, impossible. Behind you. Go back. Stop the hunt. The shadow-skinned warrior froze and spun around, weapon raised. Nothing. Only white silence. His breathing quickened, fogging his mask. The reptilian narrowed his eyes. He uses the storm. And it was true. The hunters soon discovered tunnels, carved deep into the ice, their entrances covered with snow so smooth they vanished from sight. Inside, hollow chambers twisted like veins, and narrow slits cut into the surface let the wind sing as it passed. Dozens of these holes created whistles of different tones. Together, they formed voices. The human had turned the blizzard into a weapon, making the storm speak for him. One warrior smashed a tunnel wall in rage, but the act only made the sound grow louder, like laughter. Hours later, when the storm reached its peak, the hunters saw something more terrifying. A figure walked through the white curtain of snow, slow and steady. The shape was small, but the storm seemed to bend around him. The wind did not strike his body. The snow did not blind his eyes. He walked like a man taking a calm path through his home. The reptilian growled, steam bursting from his mouth. Impossible! The storm spares no one. Yet they all saw it. The blizzard roared, but the human's figure stayed clear, unharmed. Some hunters thought it was a trick of light, a shadow bent by the wind. Others believed something worse, that the storm had chosen him. Fear became heavier than the cold. One shadow-skinned warrior could not take it anymore. He roared and charged, cutting through the snow with a burning blade. The human did not run. He simply stepped back into the storm. The warrior followed, his screams swallowed by the wind. Minutes passed. Then his blade came flying back, landing in the snow at their feet, still burning. His body never returned. The reptilian clenched his claws. His pride refused to break, but his instincts screamed caution. For the first time in his life, he felt like prey. The group moved again, slower now, checking every shadow. And then they found it. A cave hidden under a drift, its mouth wide enough for only one to crawl inside. Inside the cave, the walls were lined with markings, symbols scratched deep into the ice. Circles, arrows, and words written in dozens of languages. Alien, human, some older than history itself. The shadow-skinned warrior ran his claw over the symbols. These are instructions, maps, traps, notes of every move we make. The reptilian's jaw tightened. The truth hit them all. At once, the human was not just fighting, he was learning. Every trap, every weakness, every movement, they were being studied, recorded, turned against them. Suddenly, a sound echoed from deep inside the cave. A voice. Not the storm this time. A real voice. Human. Calm. Cold. You do not belong here. The hunters froze. The voice came from every direction, bouncing through the tunnels. The reptilian roared, driving his spear into the ice wall. "Show yourself, human!" The echo laughed, not cruel, but quiet, almost tired. "I already have." And then the cave shuddered. The floor beneath them cracked. The hunters scrambled out as the walls collapsed inward. The cave fell into darkness, burying the maps, burying the proof. When the hunters stood outside again, panting in the snow, they realized something far worse. While they had been inside, the human had circled around. Their footprints led them, back to their own campfire. Their rations were gone, their energy cells missing. Even the reptilian's personal blade had vanished from its sheath, stolen clean without a sound. The human had not only survived, he had taken everything. That night, the storm quieted. The hunters huddled close, weaker than ever. Some whispered prayers to their gods. Others sharpened blades with shaking hands. The reptilian sat apart, staring into the snow. His pride was wounded, but deeper than pride was fear. Not of the storm, not even of death, but of the truth that was growing clear in his mind. The human was no longer prey. The human was no longer a participant. He was the storm itself, and in the Arctic, the storm never lost. The final survivors. By the next gray morning, only 4 hunters remained: the reptilian leader, 2 shadow-skinned warriors, and a broad-shouldered brute from a world of iron deserts. Their armor was scarred. Their rations were almost gone. Their steps were slow, not from the cold, but from the weight of fear. The wind had a voice now, and it did not speak kindly. They gathered in the lee of a broken ridge. The reptilian drew a map in the snow with one claw. Simple lines, honest lines. "He drives us," he said. "He chooses our path. No more. We move where he cannot predict. We move in silence." The iron desert brute grunted. Frost clung to his beard like white metal. "I do not believe in ghosts," he said. "I believe in bait." He held up a small beacon, bright, warm, and loud to any senser. "We make him come." The shadow-skinned pair nodded. The plan felt strong. It felt like action. They needed action more than food. They chose a hollow bowl of ice for the trap. The brute planted the beacon in the center and covered it with a thin skin of snow. The shadowed warriors spread to the rim, half-seen shapes behind flat shields. The reptilian climbed to a narrow spur to watch the whole field. If the human came, 4 weapons would speak at once. No tunnels, no strings, no tricks. The beacon hummed, warm, bright, irresistible. Snowflakes drifted into the bowl. Time stretched thin. A figure stepped from the storm at the far lip, small, hooded, calm. He stood in clear sight, closer to the reptilian than to the others. The reptilian's trigger finger tightened, then stilled. Something was wrong. The human's boots did not sink. His steps left no print. The reptilian hissed, "Do not fire!" Too late. The brute slammed his weapon, and a spear of white flame crossed the bowl, straight through the human. Cloth burst, straw spilled. Another dummy, another lesson. At that exact breath, every visor flashed a warning: temp spike, left flank. All 3 hunters wheeled to fire toward the heat. Nothing stood there, only a mound of snow stitched with thin seams. The seams ripped open, vomiting warm vapor. 10 little heat bombs woke at once. The sensors screamed. Every aim went blind. The reptilian did not trust light anymore. He trusted weight and sound. Under the hiss of steam, he heard it. A soft, quick scratch on hard ice behind him. He spun as a rope slid tight across the spur where he stood. The line yanked a slab away, and the ridge's edge crumbled. He dropped with the slab, claws punching for purchase. He caught a crack by 2 talons and hung over a black throat of sea. A hand caught his wrist. Gloved human. For a heartbeat, the world went silent. Even the storm seemed to hold its breath. The human did not speak. He braced, pulled, and helped the reptilian up onto the safe side of the break. Then he cut the rope and backed away, eyes steady through frost-rimmed goggles. "Why?" the reptilian rasped. The human's answer was simple: honor. Then he was gone, folding into a crease of snow. By the time the reptilian slid back to the bowl, the fight was finished. One shadow-skinned warrior lay tangled in his own wire. No blood, only a broken leg and a dead battery. The other stumbled in blind circles, visor fogged by steam. The brute had charged the mound in fury and found only hollow snow. A step later, he fell through a skin bridge and met the sea. The ice closed, and the water kept what it took. 3 left. The reptilian dragged the injured shadow to shelter and shared the last of his heat cells. The uninjured warrior watched, jaw tight. "We are hunters," he said. We do not accept mercy. We end this. Mercy is not weakness, the reptilian said. He thought of the human's hand on his wrist, of a rope cut after a life was saved. Mercy is choice. They moved on, slower, closer, wiser. They ignored bright signals and followed darker. Truths, wind lines, grain in drift edges, the way thin snow flexed like skin over a hollow. The human's map was everywhere. If they looked with humble eyes, they could read it. Near dusk, they found a place that smelled like smoke and salt. A low shelf of old ice hid a narrow door. Inside lay a long, thin room carved by patient hands. On the wall hung simple tools, bone needles, lines braided from seal sinew, hooks hammered from scrap metal. A small stove, handmade from a cut can, sat black with use. In the corner, a circle of stones held little tokens, a snapped alien knife, a child's mitten, a bent tag with human letters. The reptilian touched the tag. USN. He did not know the word, but he knew a badge when he saw. The uninjured shadow stepped to a shelf and found a book sealed in waxed cloth. He ripped it open. The pages were stiff with cold. On them careful marks, dates, winds, ice maps, words in many tongues, lists of prey and paths and warnings. Simple. Pens had done what the hunter's machines failed to do. The human had watched storms for years. He had learned their moods like a farmhand learns the soil. At the back, they found a message burned into leather. It used their trade tongue, the language hunters spoke at neutral ports. This is not a game. Leave this place. The sea takes all. Debts. The shadow spat. He mocks us again. No, the reptilian said softly. He teaches. They took nothing. They left the book where it was. When they stepped outside, the wind had shifted, a slow bend toward the north. The reptilian tasted that bend and chose to follow it. The shadow refused. Enough obedience to a ghost, he said. I will end him or die. He broke right, climbing a glare slope. The reptilian called once, then fell silent. Some choices cannot be pulled back by words. The shadow reached the top and found a new world, a field of pressure ice, high blue blocks stacked like broken teeth. In the field's center stood a single pole with a strip of cloth tied to it. The cloth snapped in the wind, ticking a steady beat. He advanced, wary, gun low. The pole was harmless. The cloth was harmless. The ground was not. A soft groan rose. Under his boots, the sound of two plates moving. He felt the shift too late. Cracks flashed outward like lightning trapped in glass. The field folded. He leapt to a high block and clung there. The block rolled. He rode it like a dying animal until it slammed into another and locked. When he looked up, the human stood on a far crest. No gun, no blade, just a line in his hand, anchored to a nail pounded into a ridge. The human tugged once, the pole in. The center pulled a loop tight. The entire field sighed and settled. A trap built not to kill, but to hold. The shadow raised his weapon in pure rage. The human cut the line, not the trap line, the line to the nail. He gave up his control, bowed to the ice, and disappeared. The shadow fired. His shot burned a hole in the field and woke the sea. Water rose in long, black fingers and stroked the edges of the blue blocks. The field began to drift. The shadow's platform slid apart from the rest and turned slowly to the north, out toward a place where even the storm did not go. The reptilian reached the edge too late to help. He watched his comrade float into the white, a proud shape made, small by distance and choice. The hunter did not call for aid. Pride held his jaw shut. The sea took what the sea claimed. Two left. Night came clear for the first time. Stars like cold nails hammered into dark wood. The aurora flowed in long green rivers. In that hush, footprints appeared again, honest and fresh, leading across a smooth plain. The reptilian followed. He did not hunt now, he sought. The injured shadow limped behind, leaning on his spear like an old man on a staff. The prince stopped at a low wall of snow. On the wall, words were carved in many languages. The reptilian read them in the trade tongue, slow and careful. Listen to the ice. It tells you where to live and where to die. He listened. Beneath the plain came a faint, hollow thud in a steady rhythm, sea pounding under a thin roof. He stepped back from the plain and chose the darker path along the ridge. The injured hunter followed, breath hissing, visor frosting at the edges. A whistle drifted from the ridge's far end. Not the storm organ. A human whistle, 2 notes, low and kind. The reptilian's throat tightened. He had a son once, long ago, who whistled like that on warm stone steps at sundown. He had not remembered that in years. They reached a narrow pass. In its throat, a rope hung from a buried anchor. On the rope was tied a small package wrapped in white cloth. The reptilian opened it. Inside lay 3 heat cells, 2 ration bars, and a folded square of tough paper. On the paper, "You saved me. I pay my debt. Turn back at dawn." The injured shadow grabbed a heat cell with shaking hands. "It is insult," he said, though the warmth already softened his voice. "It is law," the reptilian answered. His law. And the ice loves law more than blood. They built a small shelter there. Not a fire, only a block from the wind. The reptilian did not sleep. He watched the pass and the stars, and the slow dance of light above the world. Near midnight, the human's shape crossed the far ridge, a brushstroke of darker night against night. He paused and looked down at them, and even from that distance, the reptilian felt the gaze. Tired, steady, exact. "Who are you?" the reptilian called, voice low but clear. The answer came on the wind, carried clean without echo. "A man who stayed when his ship left." The reptilian bowed his head. He understood enough. Dawn came like a pale coin. The wind softened again. The "kinda quiet, that means a great noise is coming." The reptilian stood, lifted the package, and set it on the rope for the human to take back. "Debt paid on both sides," he said. Then he turned to the injured hunter. "We go back." The ice cracked like thunder. From the north rolled a wall of white. No drift, no playful squall, but the blizzard's full body, wide as a city and taller than the sky. The choice to turn back was gone. The storm would choose now. The reptilian gripped his spear and faced the pass. "We move," he said. Somewhere ahead, the human moved too, not running, not hiding, but arranging lines only he could see. Doors. In drifts, walls in wind, one last road through the teeth of a living world, 2 hunters, 1 human, 1 storm. The hunt was almost over. The ending would not be written by strength alone. The last stand. The storm arrived, not like a visitor, but like a conqueror. It swept across the plain in a wall of white so thick that even sound was buried. The sky vanished. The horizon vanished. The world became only a circle of breath in front of each hunter's mask. The reptilian leader pressed forward, dragging the injured shadow-skinned hunter with 1 claw hooked into his comrade's harness. Every step felt heavier, as if the storm pressed down on their backs. They could not see footprints anymore. They could not see traps. They could only trust the faint memory of the human's last warning carved in ice. Listen to the storm. The reptilian stopped often, kneeling low, feeling the ground. When it was hollow, he turned aside. When it was solid, he stepped forward. The injured shadow groaned with each movement, his breath ragged. At last, when the wind broke for a heartbeat, they saw him. A lone figure stood on a ridge ahead, wrapped in frost and shadow. Snow swirled around him, but not against him. His boots rested on ice, yet he did not sink. He stood tall, calm, waiting. The reptilian's heart hammered, his claws curled. He was a veteran of many wars, but never had he felt this, respect mixed with fear. The injured shadow raised his weapon, voice trembling. "Now, we end this!" The reptilian caught his arm. "Wait!" But the shadow fired. A spear of light streaked across the storm. For a moment it seemed true, striking the human square in the chest. The figure fell. The shadow laughed, weak and broken. At last. But then the storm shifted. The body on the ridge collapsed into powder, nothing but snow packed into a human shape. A whisper rolled through the gale. "Too loud!" The shadow screamed in frustration, stumbling forward. He charged into the white wall, weapon raised high. The reptilian did not follow. He knew what would happen. The scream came quickly. Then silence. The reptilian stood alone. He did not shout. He did not curse. He only lowered his head and pressed forward into the storm. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. In the blizzard, time had no meaning. The reptilian's legs burned, his claws ached, his breath steamed and froze against his mask. Still he walked. He did not walk as a hunter now, but as one who sought truth. Last, the storm thinned. He stepped into a wide hollow shielded by walls of broken ice, and there, at the center, stood the human. No trick this time, no dummy of snow, no shadow, the real human. His parka was torn, his face was pale, skin raw from wind. His eyes, though half hidden behind frost, were steady, sharp, alive. He carried no weapon, only a rope coiled across his shoulder and a knife, with a broken handle at his belt. The reptilian stopped, claws digging into the snow. His voice was low, cracked by frost. "Why? Why fight us? Why stay?" The human's breath fogged, slow and calm. "Because I had no ship to leave on. And because this land taught me." "Taught you what?" The reptilian growled. The human spread one hand, showing the storm, the ice, the silence. "That strength is not claw. It is not armor. It is listening, waiting, becoming small until the land carries you." The reptilian's chest heaved. Pride fought truth inside him. He wanted to strike, to roar, to prove himself the hunter. But another part of him, the part that had felt that human hand pulling him from the cliff, stayed his claws. The storm circled them, screaming against the walls of the hollow, but inside was a strange calm. Two figures, predator and prey, stood across from each other, yet the lines between them blurred. The human spoke again, softer this time. "The hunt is over. You can leave, or you can die here, as the others did." The reptilian's claws trembled. "And if I choose to fight you?" The human's eyes narrowed, but his voice stayed steady. "Then the storm will fight me first, and you will see which one of us it spares." For a long moment, the reptilian stared. His amber eyes glowed against the frost, searching the human's face. He found no mockery there, only patience, only tired truth. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. His claws relaxed. His breath came heavy but calmer now. "You are not prey," he said. His voice broke. "You are not even hunter. You are Stormwalker." The human did not smile. He only nodded, as if the title was nothing new. Together they stood, silent, as the blizzard swirled higher, painting the sky with white fury. Then, without warning, the storm roared louder than ever before. The ice cracked beneath their feet. The hollow shuddered, ready to collapse. The reptilian raised his head, roaring into the gale. "What now, Stormwalker?" The human wrapped his rope around a high spike of ice, bracing. His eyes met the reptilian's. "Now comes the last test." The storm screamed. The ground split. White walls fell. The final stand had begun. He vanishing. The storm broke open like a beast unchained. Snow and wind slammed into the hollow with the power of a falling mountain. The walls of ice cracked and groaned, splintering into jagged teeth. The reptilian leader braced himself, claws dug deep, tail whipping in the gale. Across from him, the human tied his rope tight around an ice pillar, his body bent low against the wind. The ground itself shifted beneath them. Sheets of ice peeled away, sliding into the Black Sea below. The storm was no longer just weather. It was judgment. It wanted an ending. The reptilian roared into the chaos, his voice half drowned by the blizzard. "Why do you not run?" The human's eyes shone through his frost-covered goggles. "There is nowhere to run, only choices." The reptilian's muscles coiled. He could leap. He could strike. His claws itched to test themselves against this small, fragile figure who had defied all logic. But another thought gnawed at him. If he killed the human, would the storm even allow him to leave? Or would it take him too, burying him under ice like the others? The storm answered before he could. The ice pillar to which the human clung shuddered, then broke loose with a deafening crack. The rope snapped tight. The human swung out over the abyss, dangling above the dark sea that foamed hungrily below. The reptilian charged forward, claws reaching. His pride screamed to leave the man. But his instincts, older than his pride, drove him to act. He dropped flat, extended his full length, and caught the rope just as it began to slide. His arms strained, muscles tearing under the weight. For a moment, predator and prey were bound together by a single thread of survival. The human dangled, one hand clutching the rope, the other gripping his broken knife. He looked up at the reptilian, eyes calm even in the face of death. "Let go," he said. The reptilian snarled. "No, you'll fall with me," the human shouted through the storm. "Then so be it," the reptilian roared, tightening his grip. The wind screamed, tearing at them, trying to rip them both away. The ice pillar groaned, sinking deeper. The sea below rose like a mouth opening wide. And then, suddenly, the storm shifted. For the first time, it bent, as though listening. The rope snapped upward, catching against a hidden spike of ice. The human swung back onto the ledge, slamming hard but alive. Both collapsed, side by side, panting in the snow. For long minutes, neither spoke. Only the storm spoke for them, a voice of endless white. Finally, the reptilian sat up, steam rising from his body. His claws shook, not from cold, but from what he had done. He had saved prey. No, he corrected himself. He had saved a man. The human slowly stood, shoulders bent but unbroken. He looked down at the reptilian, then turned to face the storm. The blizzard swirled around him, almost gentler now, as though the land itself had acknowledged his survival. "You are the victor," the reptilian said bitterly, lowering his head. The human shook his head. "There are no victors. Only those who listen, and those who vanish." The reptilian frowned. "Vanish?" The human raised one hand. Through the curtain of snow, ships appeared above, massive alien craft breaking through the clouds. They had come to collect the survivors, to honor the one who remained. But as their search beams swept the ice, they found only one figure, the reptilian. The human had already stepped backward into the storm. His figure blurred, then dissolved completely into the blizzard, as though he was never there. No footprint remained. No shadow, no sound. The reptilian stumbled forward, claws digging into the snow. "Wait! Where do you go?" No answer, only the storm. When the ships landed, they found the reptilian alone. He was hailed as the survivor of the Arctic. Hunt. He was given medals, his name recorded in the songs of his people. Yet when he stood on the stage before his kin, he did not raise his head high. His voice was low, heavy. All perished. he said. All except the human who vanished into the storm. And from that day, whispers spread across the stars. Hunters told stories in hushed tones of a fragile creature who outwitted giants, who bent the blizzard itself to his will, who vanished without a trace when victory was his. Some said he was taken by the storm, chosen to become its spirit. Others believed he still wandered the white wastelands, waiting for the next hunt. But all agreed on one thing. In the Arctic hunt, strength and armor failed, pride and weapons failed. Only patience, listening, and quiet defiance endured. The legend of the Stormwalker was born. And somewhere, far from ships and songs, a lone human walked through the endless white. His boots pressed no tracks. His body cast no shadow. He moved with the storm, and the storm moved with him. He was not prey. He was not hunter. He was the vanishing man, and the blizzard was his home.